My name's Jason. 16 years old, and I work the closing shift at a grocery store that's been decaying under flickering fluorescent lights since before I was born. I started here about a year ago, mostly to get away from home. School's still a thing, technically, so I only get stuck with night shifts, 3 or 4 evenings a week, usually from 6 until 10. The hours suit me just fine. Nighttime hides things. Secrets. People like me. Last Wednesday bled together with all the other stale, fluorescent evenings, until it didn't. It was creeping toward closing time, around 9:15 or so. I was stationed near the front of the store, restocking a tower of dented canned corn that never sold unless there was a storm warning. The other employees kept to themselves, no one really talked to me unless they had to, which was perfect. I preferred it that way. There's something satisfying about being invisible until you don't want to be. That was when he walked in. He didn't make a sound. The doors hissed open, and there he was, already inside like the world had just rendered him in place. I stopped stacking for a moment, instinctively watching. He looked about 40, give or take. Average height, maybe 5'10", but built like someone who used to be strong and forgot how to move like it. His skin was pale. Not the usual kind of pale, either. He had this sickly, chalk-white complexion, like someone had drained him of all color and warmth. He wore a gray hoodie and black jeans, normal enough at a glance, but something about them felt wrong, off-kilter. The hoodie clung to his neck like it was choking him, and the sleeves barely covered half his forearms, like he'd borrowed someone else's clothes. Someone smaller. Someone gone. It wasn't his outfit that stopped me cold, though. It was the way he moved. He walked like a broken puppet, stiff, mechanical, like his limbs didn't know how to bend the right way. His arms dangled perfectly straight at his sides, and his feet landed with a weirdly heavy thud each time, as if he was made of something denser than flesh. Something cold. Something dead. The air around him shifted. It wasn't fear exactly, I'm not wired for fear the way normal people are. But I felt something, like the edges of reality got pulled tighter just from him being there. My gut twisted with curiosity more than anything else. I didn't like what I saw, but I wanted to see more. I watched him until he drifted past the registers and disappeared into the middle aisles. My hands moved on autopilot, finishing the stacking job while my eyes kept flicking back to where he'd gone. I wanted him to come back. I wanted another look. As if summoned, my manager's voice, Vanessa, crackled through my thoughts, barking at me to restock the juice shelves in the back. I grabbed the metal cart without a word and headed toward the rear of the store, the wheels squeaking under the weight of sticky grape concentrate and leaking orange cartons. Halfway down the back aisle, I saw him again. Same man. Same rigid walk. Only this time, he was staring straight at the rows of cereal boxes like they held the answers to life itself. He looked lost. Not confused, but disconnected. Like someone gave him a list of tasks he didn't understand, and now he was trying to follow them without knowing why. Then his head turned. Slow. Deliberate. Eyes locked on me. There was no curiosity in his gaze. No confusion, either. Just empty purpose. He shuffled toward me like he had just now noticed my existence. When he reached me, he didn't say hello or offer a nod. He just asked, "Where is the soda?" The words were clipped, flat, no inflection, no warmth. Like a recording played through an old speaker. Even his voice didn't sound quite real. It scratched at the back of my mind like white noise that almost made sense. It unsettled me, and I don't get unsettled easily. Up close, he was worse. His skin looked too smooth, like someone tried to sculpt a human face from wax and forgot the details. His lips barely moved when he spoke. His nose was just a little too symmetrical. His eyes were sunken but not from fatigue, they looked hollow, like something else was staring through them. And the way he blinked, God. He blinked slowly, like a child pretending to be a person. I should have felt scared. Most people would have. But all I could think about was how interesting he was. How wrong he was. I pointed him to aisle 6. Told him the exact location. Then came the part that made my skin crawl in the best possible way. He repeated my sentence back to me. Word for word. Same rhythm. Same pauses. Like a tape recorder. Then, without even changing expression, he said, "Thank you." Just that. 2 words. But they hit me like a whisper in a tomb. I stood there a second too long after he walked away, my fingers curling around the metal handle of the cart. My mind itched with a thought I couldn't quite scratch. That moment, him echoing my words, wasn't just weird. It was deliberate. Like he was trying to mimic me, copy something human. But it didn't work. It was close, but not close enough. It was like watching a glitching video game character stuck on a loop. I forced myself to keep working, rolling the cart down the sticky aisle toward the refrigerated section. But I was hyper-aware of every creak, every footstep that wasn't mine. It felt like he was still somewhere nearby, just out of sight. By the time I finished the juice aisle, it was almost 9:50. My shift was nearly over. I returned the cart to the stockroom, then made my way up front to clock out. The store was dead quiet, more so than usual. It felt wrong. I glanced around for the man. He was gone. No soda in hand. No rustling bags. Just gone. I walked up to Vanessa, who was slouched behind the service counter, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. "Hey," I said, casually. "Did that guy leave?" She blinked up at me. "What guy?" "The one in the gray hoodie," I said. "Tall, pale, kind of stiff. Asked about the soda." She gave me this look like I was messing with her. "I didn't see anyone like that." "You sure you're not just tired?" I stared at her for a moment. Vanessa wasn't the type to miss anything, especially a customer. She was nosy like that. But she was serious. I turned and walked toward the front registers. Marcus, the cashier on duty, was fiddling with the till and singing to himself, off-key as always. "You saw that guy earlier, right?" I asked him. "Weird walk, pale face?" Marcus glanced up. "Oh. Yeah, I noticed him. Walked like a wind-up toy. Didn't buy anything though. Just wandered around, then I think he dipped." "You sure?" He shrugged. "Didn't see him leave. But I didn't hear the doors either." That made me stop. Our automatic doors make a loud hiss whenever someone enters or exits. You can't miss it. There's no sneaking past them, not unless the system failed, or he never left at all. Something didn't add up. I went back to the floor and checked the security mirrors. No trace. I didn't know why it was bothering me so much. It wasn't like he did anything threatening. He didn't even touch me. But the unease coiled around me like a snake tightening with every breath. I clocked out and walked to the employee exit in the back. The hallway was dim, the overhead light flickering like it always did. I hated that hallway. It smelled like old mop water and burnt wiring. Still, I hesitated. A part of me hoped he would be waiting there. The other part prayed he wasn't. I opened the back door slowly and stepped into the loading bay. Nothing. Just silence and the soft buzz of a distant street lamp. My car was parked under the far edge of the lot, a 10-second walk away. But it felt like a mile. I locked the door behind me and started toward it, eyes scanning every shadow. I didn't see him. I didn't hear him. But that pressure in the air? Still there. Still watching. The drive home was a blur. I blasted the radio to distract myself, but it didn't help. My mind kept circling the same image, his face. That almost human face. And those eyes. Not dead, exactly. Not empty either. But, misused. Like someone had borrowed them and forgotten how they worked. When I got home, the house was dark. Mom was asleep, probably passed out with the TV on in her room again. I didn't bother turning on any lights. I just locked my door, sat on my bed, and stared at the wall. I don't get shaken easily. But I wasn't shaken. I was fascinated. This wasn't just a strange guy. This was something else entirely. Something wrong. And I had seen it. That made me important. That made me special. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, eyes wide, smiling to myself. Because whatever that thing was, it had noticed me too. The next morning at school, I felt like I was wearing a mask. People moved around me like props in a play, laughing, gossiping, pretending they mattered. I sat in homeroom, half listening to announcements, but my mind was miles away. It was still there, back in the grocery store, with that man, that thing. I kept thinking about how deliberate his movements were. How perfectly imperfect his face had been. Whatever he was, he didn't belong in our world, but he was trying to. That was what stuck with me most. He was trying to pass. And it almost worked. But I saw through it. I always see what's underneath. Later, during lunch, I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through Reddit threads about doppelgangers, humanoid cryptids, and skinwalkers. Nothing matched exactly. Some stories came close, people who saw, almost human, figures behaving strangely, echoing words, or mimicking facial expressions. But they all sounded exaggerated. Like the people telling them had embellished the creep factor for attention. I didn't need attention. I needed answers. I started thinking about ways to draw him out. If he was still around, if he came into the store again, I'd be ready. I'd watch him more closely. Maybe even follow him. I didn't care how dangerous it was, I felt something stir in me I hadn't felt in years. Obsession. Hunger. By the time my shift rolled around again on Friday, I had a plan. The store was quieter than usual that night. Fewer customers. Fewer distractions. Good. I kept glancing at the front doors, waiting for them to hiss open and bring him back. Every shadow in the aisles made me stiffen. Every reflection in the freezer doors made me stop. But he didn't come. I kept working. Kept watching. By 9:30, I was restocking paper towels near the back when I heard something. Not footsteps. Something softer. A sort of dragging sound, like fabric on tile. I stood up straight, turning slowly. The aisle behind me was empty. Still, the sound had come from nearby. I crept down the row, past the cleaning supplies and into the seasonal section. The lights overhead flickered once, dimming for just a second. I smiled. Something was off again. I could feel it in my bones. That's when I heard it, my own voice, repeated back at me, from the next aisle over. Aisle 6. On the right, next to the bottled water. Exact tone. Exact inflection. My voice. But I hadn't said a word tonight. I moved fast, stepping around the corner. The aisle was empty. But at the far end, I saw the edge of a gray hoodie slipping out of sight. I followed. Fast and quiet. My steps were practiced, predatory. I had done this kind of thing before, trailing people, watching them from corners, waiting for moments that felt more real than anything else. He was near the dairy section now. His back to me. Still moving in that uncanny, jointless stride. "Hey," I called out, just to see if he'd turn. He didn't. So I stepped closer. "You lost again?" I asked. He stopped. Turned around. His face was smiling this time. Not a friendly smile, though. It was wide and too even, like something had seen people smile and decided to mimic it without understanding the purpose. His eyes didn't match the expression. They were darker now. Deeper. Hungrier. I felt my heart pick up. "You remember me," I said. He nodded once. Slow. Deliberate. "You were copying my voice." Another nod. I stepped even closer. "What are you?" He tilted his head slightly, like a curious dog. And then, in my voice again, he said, "I am learning." That word, learning, sent a thrill through me. He wasn't just wandering. He was evolving. Adapting. Maybe even choosing who to learn from. And he'd picked me. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to press him, to know how far he could go. But I was interrupted by the overhead speaker buzzing to life, Vanessa's voice announcing final checkout. I turned to glance at the front of the store. Just a second. But when I looked back, he was gone. I scanned every aisle. Checked every exit. Nothing. He had vanished again, leaving no trace. Except, no, that wasn't true. When I got back to the paper towel display, I noticed one was missing. Just one. A single roll, taken from the middle of the stack. The edges of the plastic wrapping were oddly pinched, like he hadn't used his fingers to grab it. Like he didn't know how. That made me grin. He was trying to act normal. To be normal. That was the funniest part. The most beautiful part. He thought he could hide among us. But I see everything. And now, I think he sees me too.